prologue time trial and claimed the first yellow jersey. On Sunday, Alex Zuller took the lead by winning a sprint and the 6 seconds time bonus. The stage was set for his 24th birthday celebrations. Monday, and out of Spain, the lead changed again. Richard Virenque took over in a wave of emotion. The fourth day and a fourth new leader. Virenque's RMO team played a trump card to Bordeaux, and the lead switched to his friend Pascal Lino. After a transfer to north of Paris, no signs of fatigue as the second fastest stage in Tour history produced a lone win for the Italian Guido Bontempi. And so to Friday, stage 6 and the great escape by Claudio Chiappucci and Greg LeMond. They gained almost 1.5 minutes on the favourites. Behind them, 20 riders crashed over the cobble roads of Belgium and 6 went to hospital. And yesterday, it was Stephen Roche of Ireland, the winner of the Tour in 1987, who launched himself back into the race and among the leaderboard. Roche finished second on the stage. So at the end of week 1, it's Pascal Lino in yellow, Richard Virenque in the polka dot jersey of King of the Mountains, and Laurent Jalabert of France in green. And the action in today's programme coming from stage 8 between Valkenburg, Holland and the confluence of the Rhine and Moselle in Koblenz, Germany. We'll be talking to Jamaludin Abdujaparov and his memories of that terrible crash on the Champs-Élysées a year ago. And we'll be reflecting on the more humorous moments on this year's race. We'll also be talking to Alan Piper and Greg LeMond, who will give us an insider's view of the Tour de France. And by the end of a very packed programme, somebody watching today will be winning this leader's yellow jersey, the maillot jaune, and thank you for all your entries for our competition. This will be autographed by today's stage winner and by the overall leader of the race, for the person who is drawn out of the hat of those who has correctly predicted today's stage winner. I'm going for Rolf Goltz, by the way, of Germany, but I've been wrong all week, so why should we change now? Before we go to the action, let's have a look at the overall situations in more detail. In the yellow jersey competition, Pascal Lino is still the overall leader, 3 minutes 18 seconds ahead of Steve Bauer. Chiappucci is third after that great ride yesterday. Stephen Roche is up to fourth. Richard Virenque, once the leader, now down to fifth. Of the rest, Greg LeMond is sixth, Bunyo is ninth, Indurain is 10th, and Breukink 17th, Chioccioli in 19th place. Of the other two main competitions, in the King of the Mountains, Richard Virenque is leading that, and he's still got 11 points in hand over Claudio Chiappucci. In the green jersey points competition, this is turning out to be quite a battle. Dicing all week, Laurent Jalabert, he got the lead yesterday off Johan Museeuw, but there's still only 4 points in it. Olaf Ludwig, who lives here in Valkenburg, might again be in the frame today.
So the rollout this morning as the riders head off towards Germany. And this is the route they faced, 206.5 kilometres today. A fairly level course until they cross into the German countryside, and then a couple of fourth category climbs, and one near the end could well be chosen today as a possible springboard to victory. Stephen Roche, very happy this morning, the man who really put the cat among the pigeons yesterday with that great finish in Valkenburg, and he was extremely popular at the signing on podium this morning in the town of Valkenburg. At the first sprint, though, this is quite a serious affair, because after only 27.5 kilometres at Haarlem, Johan Museeuw and Laurent Jalabert battled out the green jersey competition. Museeuw getting the better of Jalabert, but Gianni Brugno getting what may be an important 2 seconds bonus for taking third place. Well, among the retirements today is Fabio Parra, and these are the pictures when the crash happened a couple of hours into the stage this morning. Parra is believed to have broken his ribs and quite clearly in serious pain. Well, this is a sad sight. It's the second time that Parra is out of the Tour de France because of a crash like this. It happened a couple of years ago, you may remember, as we climbed over the Pont de Tonqueville in the north of France when he collided going through the entry gates at the Tolbus there. So the Colombians have lost their top man, Fabio Parra, in this year's Tour de France. And so the countryside changing all of the time as our Tour de France becomes a mini Tour of Europe, and onto the first climb, which came in Germany earlier, and that was the Côte de Bad Neuenaar. And at the top, Claudio Chiappucci was taking the points ahead of Tilly Claverola. Our man, we think, may win the King of the Mountains in the end, and Uwe Ampler of Germany in third place. At that stage of the race, they were well ahead of schedule, and soon after that sprint at the top of the climb, a breakaway of 17 riders has developed, and we are now racing at around 145 kilometers. And in this breakaway, noted names: Stephen Roche again, 4th overall now, Jens Heppner in 7th place, and Greg LeMond, and also Paul Pedro Delgado.
Incredible composition of this group, and it's like this every day at the moment. What a race the Tour de France is turning out to be this year. It is so open, and the boys behind aren't thinking about waiting for the big time trial. They're not waiting for the mountains. They want to get away and race already before we get there, because they're obviously scared of the power of Indurain and Bunyo. But those two riders are wasting themselves watching each other and letting everybody else do the racing, and it could be extremely dangerous.
There's Laurent Fignon, the Gatorade boys, also paying more attention at the head of the field. They appear here as though we've got a little split going clear of the field. This bunch has split up on at least 4 occasions today because of the average speed, and each time one or two of the favourites have been caught in the back part of the split.
They've got to be very attentive, and in fact it's all coming back together now. Dante Redze, who was one of the RMO riders in the front, he actually waited for his teammates behind. They got organised, and it looks now as if they pulled it all together. But one man has gone clear. That is Yvan de la Danois from the Castorama team. He's gone away from the group, and he may well be the man leading the race at the moment.
Well, they'll probably give him his head at least for a while. There's Pascal Lino in the yellow jersey, racing now into Germany as the leader. He's come right through Belgium and France, of course, where he took over the race lead. The French are having a great tour, topped by that stage win yesterday with Gilles de Lyon. But two big names have left the tour and will not be seeing the finish in Koblenz. Sadly, Fabio Parra, the great Colombian climber, he crashed today in heavy rain and is believed to have broken some ribs and taken directly to Luxembourg by the Tour de France ambulance service. So let's hope he's okay for later in the season. And the former world champion won his world title in Colorado Springs in the United States back in 1986, Moreno Argentin. He has also retired at the feeding station today.
And I think over the next few days there'll be a lot more riders retiring from the Tour de France, because the sequels from that crash will be known today and tomorrow. That was Yvan Le Danois, the Castorama rider at the front. This looks like Jesper Skibby, the Danish rider, coming across there, with Sammy Morels, with the Lotto rider there.
Well, Skibby and Morels seem to follow each other everywhere they go. Sammy Morels was second in the stage that took us into Bordeaux. So the breakaways are coming thick and fast, but they're finding it very hard today to get away from the field. Quite clearly, the leaders of this Tour de France are now paying a lot more attention. We're passing in and out of heavy rainstorms in Germany, and Greg LeMond himself has already appeared in one serious move today. Well, last night he was with Paul Sherwin, and one of the questions Paul asked was, he wondered how Greg himself feels now of his chances in the days ahead.
I feel really good now. I mean, after a week of racing, I feel like I'm recuperated. I don't feel too tired. First 2 days were just terrible for me, so I didn't have too much hope after post-stage, although I knew I wasn't right at my normal level. I just really felt terrible. But now I think I have a good chance. I mean, as good a chance as anybody, I think. I can't say I'm at my very, very best, just because given the first 2 days, 3 days, kind of knocked my morale a little bit. But I'm as good as I've ever been prepared for this race. I mean, I've come in here with better results before the tour. Theoretically, I should be having one of my best tours. But also, a lot of the other guys are kind of reaching their summit in their careers, too. And it's just everybody's, I'm kind of at the top on my way down. And Bunyo, Indurain and Chiappucci are at their top, but on their way down also. They're not as young as everybody likes to believe they are. Indurain doesn't do anything. Bunyo's today was nervous. Seems like he was trying to prove that he was still good. I don't know. I think they're beatable. I think that they're not as strong as a lot of people think.
Some strange tactics in the race at the moment. One of the strangest tacticians must be Claudio Chiappucci. you were away with him on the stage to Brussels, and at one stage you were actually talking to him. What were you talking about?
Because he attacked in the beginning. I went away with him, and I was telling him, you know, it's too long to go.
But it's quite strange, really. 3 or 4 years ago, you had that breakaway where Chiappucci was away, and you in fact coined the nickname for him, Cappuccino. You didn't really seem to take him too serious.
No, I didn't know who he was. I took him seriously. Anybody has 10 minutes, you just never know. I figured I could take it back, which I did. I don't think I could ever take back 10 minutes in the 1992 Chiappucci. There's no way. He's riding incredibly strong.
Well, Greg LeMond still remains a great challenger in this year's Tour de France. Even if the other riders are strong, Greg LeMond will hope his strength too will keep on coming as he heads towards the Alps. Well, we're back with the action now. We saw the race splintering, and indeed this little breakaway has established itself approximately a minute plus ahead of the field. And in the group here, we have Jesper Skibby, Le Danois, a new pro on the Castorama team, who was in fact the rider who started the move. He broke away as the big peloton came up. Girotto, Massimo Girotto from the Carrera team, Flavio Vanzella, and with them Jan Nevens of Lotto, and the name I always hate saying, Alberto Leoniz Berrucia from the Spanish class team. So 6 riders, Paul. They might be allowed to go away because there's nobody here going to affect the leaderboard.
They may well be. They're starting to move clear at the moment. In fact, there's been so much pressure on this morning with so many dangerous breaks going away. It might be time for the riders to let this group have a little bit of a lead. But one man who's noticed the danger is Eric van der Aarden, who at the moment is 30 seconds behind, chasing on his own. And this is Eric van der Aarden at the moment. He can just about see them when he gets into the long straights, but it's very difficult for one man on his own to catch a 6-man group. And going back to the peloton here is Pascal Lino in his yellow jersey, and there's no chase at the moment, so it looks as if this group will get their head at the moment.
Oh, there's a crash on the corner here. One of the riders is overshot on the bend, and that's how glacial the road is. It looks like it is Leonid Berrucia, the Spanish rider, who misjudged the bend. But he's up and running again very quickly. And as the convoy is still with him, I was rather lucky it was wet there, because the chances are, because the roads are so slippery, he probably didn't hurt himself at all. But it just shows you, Paul, how dangerous these corners are once the rain comes down. Now, looking at the field here, you can see when the rain does hit the race, it is torrential, and then it goes away again, and the sun comes out. So the riders won't really know what's going on today with this weather. Looking down, though, the field, they're not dropping the pace. They're just trying to hold the losses here. Eric van der Aarden is making progress, though, Paul, up to that leading group, and that will put another good sprinter up there.
Definitely, van der Aarden's about 30 seconds behind at the moment, and the peloton actually starting to fall back. They're now over 2 minutes behind this group of riders, so I think they may have called a truce for a little while. They'll try and reorganize themselves and maybe see a little later on one of the teams like Panasonic starting to organize at the front, because I'm very sure that Olaf Ludwig would like to win here.
Well, there's plenty of time yet, but, you know, looking down from the helicopter here, for the first time since this race began just over a week ago, the peloton seem to be taking a breather. And they certainly earn that as the reflections caused by the heavy rain. Pascal Lino will be delighted they've slowed down. The reason being possibly, Paul, is that tomorrow is the first big race of truth, the first long time trial when the riders will have to come out and fight and gain and lose time.
That's why a lot of these riders in the front are trying as hard as they are at the moment, because they're not worried about the time trial tomorrow. They want to get everything they can out of their bodies today, because they know they can try a little bit easier tomorrow in the time trial. For them, it's almost a rest day. It doesn't look as if van der Aarden's going to catch those 6 leaders. He's slipping back a little bit now, 46 seconds, and there the main group, the peloton, is 2 minutes and 10 seconds behind.
Van der Aarden's probably kicking himself because he saw the break go and he's taken up the chase a little bit late. He's not caught the group yet, as you can see now, looking along this long straight road. And that's a very depressing sight for the peloton, because they'll see right up there and they won't see the riders in the lead now because the gap has grown too much, and that might cause them to turn off the power even more.
It's also very difficult for van der Aarden as well. If they'd been slipping round the corners, he might well be able to pull that 30 seconds, because he's an incredible man at handling a bike, and it looks now as if the puff has gone out of his chase a little bit. He knows that he's missed the boat. He's not been able to get back into contention there, but very unlucky for van der Aarden that he couldn't catch him going through the streets there, and now he'll see right in front of him how far away they are, and I think he'll probably sit up a little bit and wait for the main field to catch him.
Well, as we head up towards the breakaway, chance for me to answer one or two of your questions, and again we have something like 8 pages here on the commentary position today, so I'll just pick out one or two. Mr. Coe has said from London, what has happened to Lawrence Roach? Is he still racing in this year's Tour de France? Well, I'm afraid he's not either in the Tour, nor indeed is Lawrence still racing. He was in the Tour de France, his first Tour last year, but sadly his team ended it at the season, and Roach decided he had to hang up his wheels as well. And Mr. Narge asks, what does the red shirt stand for in the Tour de France? Well, Mr. Narge, you may have noticed there isn't one in this year's race. To simplify matters, it used to stand for the leader of the sprint competition, but it's been dropped from the Tour organisation now to try and make the Tour a little easier to understand for us all. Here we are now with the breakaway. This is Jan Nevens, who was in the early move. And then at number 198 here, and that will be Flavio Vanzella of the GB boys. So the breakaway settling in, we're now 2 minutes and 15 seconds the gap. Eric van der Orden is trying to catch up. I don't know if he will or not, but we'll find out after the break.
With this year's Tour only skirting the Pyrenees, there are arguably more flat sprinter stages than on previous Tours, which is good news for the likes of Abdujaparov and probably bad news for anyone daft enough to get between him and the finish line. I don't know whether the traffic laws were different in the old Soviet Union, but Abdu is not a man known for giving way. On the Champs-Élysées last year, of course, he ultimately had no choice.
And as they start now, Jan Shaw on the right, on the far left of our picture is Abdujaparov. See how much room they give him, because once his elbows start working, Olaf Ludwig takes him on nicely. Oh, and he's gone! Abdujaparov is gone and taken...
12 months on from that terrible crash on the Champs-Élysées, Jamaludin Abdujaparov is back on the Tour with his Carrera teammates. Even on tape, though, the incident still has him reaching for the broken shoulder he suffered a year ago, along with head injuries and several displaced bones in the neck. But Abdu is nothing if not a hardy road warrior. Back in Uzbekistan, he comes from a family of truck drivers, which his critics would say explains a lot. For his own part, he's still at a loss to say exactly what happened on that final sprint.
Adesso non so come dice, anche perché l'ultimo giorno è stato così.
Now I don't know how to explain it. The last day I was fine. I don't know. These things just happen. I wasn't even thinking. When I came up to the last 100 meters of the race, I suddenly turned right, and then I hit the barriers and fell. I don't remember anything until after the race. When I fell, our trainer came up to me, and after some time he asked me, "How are you? How do you feel?" I was confused. I said, "I don't know. Is this the last lap?" He said, yes. You have to go up there, and you have to get across the line. Then he gave me his hand, and I got up and crossed the line on foot with my bicycle.
Despite his late knockdown, Abdu still managed the points victory in last year's Tour, and the blood-stained green jersey he crossed the line in has been replaced by a pristine presentation version which graces Carrera headquarters in Italy. Many of his fellow professionals, though, believe he sacrificed safety to get it.
E quando fai sprint, tutti velocisti pericolosi.
When you sprint, it's dangerous. Everyone that does it is dangerous. All sprinters are dangerous. Because in the last few meters, you can't think in these moments. You only think when you cross the line. Every now and then, other people do dangerous final sprints. Because ultimately, everyone wants to win.
Fanno, non so, volata così pericoloso come tutti, no? Perché tutti vogliono vincere, allora.
What's not in doubt amongst all the controversy over Abdu's sprinting style is that it's brought him a long way so far.
Mi piace perché qua non c'è problemi come
I like the Italian life because here there aren't problems like we've got over there in Uzbekistan. For this reason, I'm happy here. But I also like it over there. It's home. But nevertheless, we've got lots of problems.
Abdu isn't exactly living out Eastern dreams of Western decadence in Italy, though. The closest he gets to luxury is his own Spartan bedroom. The rest of the house in Lombardy is shared with 4 other foreign riders, none of whom speak the same language. Still, as long as news of his victories gets back home, he's happy. Although with Abdu, it can be hard to tell.
Sì, c'è scritto qualche giornale, però televisione fanno vedere poco.
Yes, they are written about in some newspapers, but there's very little on TV. Very little. I don't know why, but lots of people know me, and they've heard of my victories. When I see people in the street, they ask, "Are you well? How's it going? How's the form?" When this crash happened on the tour last year, many of my friends thought that I wouldn't carry on cycling. They thought I'd give up. Also, my mum said, "That's enough, give it up." But I said, "Let's try again. Let's see."
Well, there's no doubt Jamaludin Abdujaparov has developed quite a relationship with everybody on the Tour de France after that crash last year, and let's hope we see him in the thick of the action as we unfold this year's event. We're looking at the field here, still the same breakaway, but happy to say that Leonid Borussia has come back. But since then, we've had punctures to Jan Navens and to Jesper Skibby. Skibby is just rejoining at the back, but look at this now. The gap has gone up to 3 minutes and 15 seconds, and in fact, when Skibby and Navens punctured, the 4 remaining riders in the lead did slow down to wait. They've evaluated they need 6 to try and build on their gains at the moment.
Well, there's still a long way to go. There's over 40 kilometres left in the race, and they'd rather have a 6-man group in the front than 4.
And now I'm sure that Leonid Borussia is a bit nervous on this little descent here, on these saturated roads in the Tour today, because the surface is so smooth, they are glacial. And Skibby's coming down very gently at the back. And I thought for a moment there that Jan Navens had gone onto the grass again. He appears to have a problem. He's coming back onto the wheel of Skibby now as they come back together again. But 1 or 2 riders now are quite nervous on this descent. There's the blackboard, although it's a green board in the Tour de France these days. And I'm afraid I couldn't read it, Paul, but I suspect it said just over 3 minutes. And Jan Navens carrying the weight of Belgium today, hopeful for a first Belgian victory.
Navens, I think, will be interested in knowing that there's a rider chasing, but he's checked there to see that Eric van der Aarden is now going backwards, and he'll soon be picked up by the main field.
So the first breakaway that has gone clear in the Tour de France this week, that has not contained somebody that might alter the overall classification, and they might begin to feel soon that they can win the stage today. Mr. Downey, who rang in and spoke to us about who was the rider we used in our opening titles, the image of a rider at least. In fact, it is of Jeff Williams, who is a great climber and the former hill climb champion of Great Britain and also an amateur road racing champion. Now, here's a good one, Mr. Slater, and you've asked us, is Sean Yates, who wears the British champion's jersey in this year's Tour de France, you've asked us who was the last person to do that from Britain. Well, I'm going to stick my neck out here, but Paul and I have talked about it, and we think that, in fact, Sean Yates might be the very first rider to ride in the British champion's jersey, certainly in 1967, sadly the year that Tom Simpson died in the Tour de France. Tom's teammate Colin Lewis from Devon, he was the British champion that year, but I have a feeling the championship was after the Tour de France. And a very interesting question coming from Mr. Timmis. I don't know if you're any relation to the professional rider Adrian Timmis, Mr. Timmis, but anyway, has anyone ever held the yellow jersey for the complete Tour de France? And the answer is yes, but not in post-war times. Bottecchia of Italy in 1984, Nicolas Franz of Luxembourg, and they don't produce many top bike riders from Luxembourg. Many of you will remember Charlie Gaulle. He held it in 1928, and the Belgian rider Romain Meis held it in 1935. But 2 did come close in more recent times. Jacques Anquetil ruled the day his teammate André Darregard won the morning stage in 1961 because Anquetil had won the prologue time trial. Darregard took the jersey off him next morning, and Anquetil took it back in the afternoon and led to the end. But we can't say he wore the yellow jersey throughout the tour. And Eddie Merckx also had a battle. He only lost it once to Cyril Guimard in 1972. By Jove, you made us work for that one. So the breakaway again on a very slippery bend, and they're taking these corners a lot more careful now. That looks to me as though we may have gone very close to the sprint there. Yep. As we're approaching now Ochtendung.
It's 36 kilometers to go for the riders. Very tricky through these towns at the moment. It's so slippery in the corners. But this group now getting together, working very well.
Motor 1, as always, signifying that they are following the leaders on the road in the Tour today. Just to remind you of the name, Jesper Skibby of Denmark and the Dutch TVM team, Le Danois, Yvon Le Danois of the Cat. Girotto from Carrera, Flavio Vanzella, 198, he is here from the GB team. That's the Italian team, by the way, not Great Britain. And Jan Nevens of Lotto, Alberto Leonis Borussia from the class team in Spain. All of the top riders are back in the peloton. The last time check we had was just over 3 minutes. And the confirmation coming up, that was the sprint, but I must say, Paul, they placed that sprint right on a bend in the road.
Well, it's probably the only place they could find in the town, and here, coming through the streets of the town, is Eric van der Aarden, but he's not making any progress of catching these 6 riders at the front. Eric van der Aarden is now 1.5 minutes behind.
And there's confirmation of the sprint in Ochtendung. Le Danois 6 seconds, Girotto takes 4 seconds, Vanzella takes 2 seconds. None of that will affect the leadership in the Tour de France, and this breakaway is still going clear. So the race is still falling back at the moment. This breakaway making good progress. Shortly they'll be confident and start to think about how they're going to outwit one another as they head towards the finish. But it gives us a chance now to go and join Alan Piper, who rides on the Tulik computer team. He's riding his last Tour de France before retirement, and he's going to give us 1 or 2 stories now from the heart of the peloton this week.
Well, there's been a lot of action happening in the bunch anyway. The last few days has been just incredible pace. 46.5 yesterday average in the rain, and 48 the day before. I've never ridden so hard in my whole life. You've got Chiappucci and Le Mans, they just seem to be driving. I think Greg's trying to get some time before the mountains. And yesterday, Indurain had me a little bit worried. He's my favourite. I want that man to win, you know. But I get the feeling he's a bit nervous. And I think it's because of Bunyo. Bunyo's like, he's the cool, calm and collected man at the moment. I just sense that Indurain's not quite as cool as he used to be, or he was in the Giro, you know. There's more competition. Chiappucci and Greg, well, they're out there racing. They're racing on the flat stages. We've still got to have the time trials in the mountains. They're probably trying to make up as much time as they can. It's difficult to say what else is going to happen, but I think Bunyo and Indurain are going to fight it out. I'm hoping it's going to be Miguel, but I'm getting worried about Bunyo anyway. Chiappucci's looking really cool. He keeps coming and showing me his pulse meter, how low his pulse is. The other day he came along beside me and his pulse was 95, and I said to Phil Anderson, how fast are we going, Phil? And he said, 60. I nearly fell off my bike, you know. I know my pulse pretty well, and I think it was about 160. Any difference, that guy? Any wonder that guy's better than me, isn't it?
What a great guy Alan Piper is. He's going to be sadly missed when he retires from the sport, because he really is a character when he struts around amongst the riders every day. He's never short of a quip. Well, we're back with the Tour again, and the rain is still coming down, and I'm afraid the news is no better now at the finishing line in Koblenz, because we're in the middle of a torrential storm here at the finish as well, and this really is a great shame. But the breakaway goes on, and in fact, Eric van der Aarden is still out on his own, trying to get into contact with this leading group, but with no success. We're looking down now, and it looks to me like Alex Zula, the race leader of the Tour, on his 24th birthday, has come back out onto the attack. And one of the riders with him from Panasonic, and looking down there, it looks to me, in fact, as though it could be Well, I'm not sure who on earth that rider was, but here's a chance to see what it's like at the finishing line right now with the arrival of the caravan. Because just when it looked as though the sun was out for the day, we are in a torrential downpour. And the rider in that lead at the moment is Olaf Ludwig, trying to get on terms. And Ludwig himself pacing well. Good couple of riders here who might well catch up with the rest. So that's the situation at the moment, and we'll take a break.
Well, as I'm sure you're all well aware by now, this year the Tour de France has gone international, although unfortunately the weather seems to have stayed resolutely British. Anyway, by the time the riders get to Koblenz, they'll have been through 5 countries in the space of the first 8 days, with Luxembourg and Italy still to come. Here then is a look back at the first week of the package Tour de France. The Tour started in San Sebastian, temporarily renamed San Miguel for purposes of national sporting pride. For us, though, the tour almost ended before it began, when the warmth of the Spanish welcome gave way to the slightly hotter reception laid on by local saboteurs, who firebombed 3 Channel 4 vehicles. Even without a car, though, the presenter must go on.
I've never been on a motorbike in my life and I've no helmet. That dog's doing that.
Further down the pecking order, of course, you have to fend for yourself. Although giving Max Chiandri a head start in the 500-metre finish line pursuit was never a good idea. From Spain, the Tour rolled back into familiar territory and familiar problems. The annual staging of the Tour de France in aid of this year's fashionable cause. One Frenchman at least, though, was out to promote a little Euro goodwill. On Friday, the Tour moved on to Brussels, the home of the European Commission. Unfortunately, the European Commission wasn't home, its HQ having been shut down by an asbestos scare, probably as a result of one of its own health and safety directives. The descriptively named Mannequin Piss statue was in his usual spot, though, topically posing as a Danish member of the peloton, passing judgment on the Maastricht Treaty. Back on the road, Greg LeMond and Claudio Chiappucci were doing their bit for international relations, negotiating a temporary Italian-American truce in order to get a jump on the rest of the leaders. By the end of the stage, though, Greg wasn't on such good terms with the international media corps that dogs his every move. And I mean every move, because even when Greg climbed the crash barrier and sought refuge under the grandstand, the Le Montourage went too.
I want to change. I want to get naked. Sorry, please.
Yesterday, Maastricht itself was on the race route, as the Tour made its 4th international stop in Holland, and the world's leading cycling nation laid on the best reception of the race so far, turning the final climb at Valkenburg into a sort of low-gradient Alpe d'Huez. Somehow I can't really see the Germans matching those Dutch crowds, which were the biggest I've ever seen outside a mountain stage. Koblenz is celebrating its 2000th anniversary, though, and with this being the first time the Tour's been to Germany for 5 years, the German riders, of course, will be anxious to do well on this stage in front of the home fans. Let's get back to the racing then, and Phil.
And the peloton now clearly in Germany and heading towards the finish, but they've got their problems today with the weather. They've also got their problems with this breakaway. And 1 or 2 riders have gone clear. Alex Zula, in fact, has been joined now by Franz Massen. I'm sure we'll see that chase pretty soon. And Olaf Ludwig is in company of Jens Heppner of the Telecom team. So the German riders as well trying to get in on the action in Germany. Well, let's have a look at our stats for the day today. Look at this, 184 riders on the start line this morning. 2 riders have given up. I'm sorry to say Fabio Parra and the former world champion Moreno Argentin. Again, a fast stage, 42 kilometers an hour, and keeping us on schedule for the fastest Tour de France in history at 42.207 kph at the moment. And so 4 riders surviving in this breakaway today. We're looking now at the man chasing them, Alex Zula, in the pink jersey of Once, this wonder boy, this 24-year-old, had his birthday the day he took yellow here in the Tour de France in Spain. And he's having a job to get across the gap, but he's shed everybody else who was with him. The last time that we got on this rider, 2 minutes 20 seconds, so he's not going to get across now. I don't think. We are inside 9 kilometers to the finish, and these are the 4 riders. One of them will run out the winner of the stage today, and Girotto at the back here has won 2 stages previously in the Tour de France. He's the only rider to have won a stage in the Tour in this leading group of 4. He knows what it's like. But Jesper Skibby, who's had a few narrow misses in his life, will also probably assess himself to be the best finisher in this race. Providing he doesn't mess it up, he could well give the Danes one of their rare stage victories. And a beautiful scene as we approach the finish, and I'm happy to say at least the rain has stopped for the arrival in Koblenz at the mouth of the rivers Moselle and the Rhine. And there's the peloton winding its way now to some beautiful countryside, out of the hunt today for the first prize, but more importantly to the riders in that big bunch, they've contained any possible attacks by the big names today, and Greg LeMond and Stephen Roach have tried, but they've been caught and brought back into the fold. And so all of the leaders will stay the same tonight, barring no problems in these last few kilometers, and they'll leave their domestiques to fight out the stage result. 4 men up front: Jan Nevens of the Lotto team, Alberto Leonid Berrutia from the Class team of Spain, Massimo Girotto of the Carrera team, and Flavio Vanella also up there for the MGGB team. And that's an Italian setup. And now we have the Spanish rider in the lead, Leonid Berrutia. Skibby, they're not easing off the pressure at all. They're gaining big chunks of time, but it won't alter their positions too much. They've lost too much already over the week leading up to this finish here in Germany.
These are the 2 chasers, Van Zelle from the GB team and Le Danois. They're about 35 seconds behind the leading 4 riders at the moment. And here they turn onto the main road with not very many kilometers to go, but the leaders, the 4 leaders, they've got 5 kilometers to go. Still working very well together. At this time, they'll be trying to figure out how the other riders are. They'll try and remember if they've sprinted against them in the past. We're entering the streets of Koblenz now, running the tactics through their minds, just trying to decide who they want to follow in this sprint.
It's actually quite a long way across the streets of Koblenz today for the riders, some 5 kilometers before they reach the finishing line. So they won't want to make the mistake here. They'll be well aware of the strength of Girotto, won at Geneva, and he's also won at Guzeneige. Little Jan Nevens, also a good finisher. And none of the riders at all taking a dip in their turn at the front. They're all keeping the pace high. They don't want, of course, Flavio Vanella and Le Danois to come back up to this group and cause confusion in the sprint. But Skibby must really be thinking now, this is mine if I don't mess it up in the sprint. There he is, Jesper Skibby. And a perky little man, just like Alan Piper, in fact, the Australian rider, with the same attitude to life, happy-go-lucky. Life is always a big joke until you get down to it and come towards the end of the stage of the Tour de France, and it takes on rather a serious aspect.
It would be nice to see Skibby win the race, because he's come so close so many times to winning a big race. That race in Hull, I remember a few years ago when he was away with his friends. Soren Lil Hull, that was incredible, the finish when they came there. He was so sure he was going to beat him in the sprint, and when it came to the line, it was just inches, and he was... I think it almost broke up a friendship there for a few minutes, but eventually they got back together again. But he is a good finisher.
Indeed, and we'll see what he can do when it comes down to it in just a few minutes' time now. Running along the shores of the River Rhine. Well, the very first cycle tour I ever took on my own bicycle was in 1961. I rode from Liverpool in England to Koblenz. Went back home, and the very next morning won my first road race. So it's a very, very pretty area to spend a holiday on a bike, but the hillsides are really hard pedaling, and the riders in the Tour de France today will know all about that. Skibby is the rider with most to gain. He turned professional 6 years ago, and last year had a couple of stage wins in the Tour of Spain with his magic sprint. And he sits at the back now, watching the rhythm of every one of the riders. It's not the sort of road to try a lone break on, Paul. It's so straight,
very difficult until we get nearer to the town where there are one or two little corners through the streets, but this is a difficult place to attack at the moment, and they know that they've got the two riders chasing behind at only 30 seconds, so they want to make sure they get a little bit closer to the finish before they try any tactics to try and move away. If anybody tries from this, maybe Leonard Borussia will try to move clear again. Jan Nevens knows he's not one of the best sprinters, so he may well try and attack them in the last kilometre, and Skibby's going to be very, very careful. I think he'll look for the wheel of Massimo Girotto to try and lead the sprint out from a long way.
Well, let's see if he does. A little speckling of crowd on top of the bridge there. And this is the chase still coming up behind, but they're a bit further down the road. This is Van Zelle here and Le Danois. Good performance by the new professional from the Castorama team, setting the pace at the moment. He was the man responsible for making the breakaway that developed into this six-man group, which has since reduced to 4. And we're going under, in fact, the 4-kilometre banner now. And that was the point for the last time bonus sprint of the day, but again, these small time bonuses of no importance there. 200 kilometres into the race, and there's the result of that. Leonid Borussia winning from Nevens and Carozzo. So they didn't sprint, they just went through.
Skibby at the back now, starting to get a little bit nervous. He keeps looking across at the other riders. We've got 3 kilometres to go. We're still not quite into the city centre of Koblenz, where they'll get one or two little corners where they might be able to launch an attack.
Well, that would put the other two back about 1 minute 30, Paul, almost a kilometre between them. And there's the beautiful hillsides of the Rhine and the Moselle. As you go along this river, you'll see chateaus all along on the high cliffside. Very, very pretty indeed. The riders not looking up today, though. They're concentrating as they approach the finish line. And the sun has returned to Germany to welcome the Tour de France into town for its one and only stage. Tomorrow we go across by road to Luxembourg, and then the riders resuming the race there with a full-time trial of over 60 kilometres, a long way against the watch. 3 kilometres to go now for the chase.
These two riders aren't going to get back, and you can see Van Zelle at the back here looking over his shoulder. All he's thinking about now is just staying clear and getting 5th or 6th place. Well, there's Leonard Borussia at the front. He's tried a little attempt there to move clear.
Well, in fact, it's only 42 seconds, that gap, so they must be a little bit closer than it appears to us. And you can see the remnants of that storm we had less than half an hour ago. It's just beginning to dry out on the roads now. And another big barge plying its way along the Rhine. Now into the edge of the approach to the finish. It's coming up towards the last mile now. Now we should see some tactics come into play. As the 4 leaders at Dice, we're having a quick look at the pack. The arrowhead is formed, the chase is on, but they won't see these 4 today now as the attacks start to go. Leonid Borussia has got to go. He's no sprinter. He's doing what Stephen Roach tried to do yesterday, and it looks to me as though Girotto immediately on him, and that's the danger to the win of Jesper Skibby. Skibby quickly marks Girotto.
Neven's going now. He was waiting for the little slow movement there, waiting for them to slow down, and he's gone down, and nobody wants to move. This could be bad for Skibby. Nevens has gone clear. Somebody's got to react now, otherwise the little man from Belgium's going to get the victory.
Well, that's the move. Leonid Borussia says, well, if you want him, go and catch him, and they haven't moved, and if they hesitate, Skibby is going to have to take it up. He doesn't want to take it up this early, but if they're not going to chase him, Skibby is going to have to go, and Girotto is waiting. They're going to let this one away. The first winner for Belgium is up the road, I think. Jan Nevens has gone. He's only won about 10 races since he turned professional, best part of 10 years ago, and this is going to be a big win for him. He's gone a speck in the distance. Skibby will curse this move today because he's not reacted. He was afraid of Girotto under the kilometre kind. It's now up to Skibby. Girotto refused to assist. Leonid Borussia, I don't think, can assist. And now they've allowed that rider to jump away and take the victory to Belgium in Germany here. Jesper Skibby has been caught napping the one way the sprinters could be beaten. And Nevens waited till they played the card. The Spanish rider went first. They were monitored. He was monitored by the sprinters. And now, well, Paul, you don't get many wins as easy as this in the Tour de France. So Nevens is coming up towards the finishing line now. Skibby is the big loser today. There's no doubt about that. And Jan Nijmans has made it look desperately easy, but who cares? He's the winner of a stage of the Tour, and he's giving Lotto and the Belgians the first victory today. He's now got an inspired sprint going here because he knows he's a long, long way ahead. He can't believe it. The greatest moment of his life, that's for sure. Wait for it. Hey! Jan Nijmans is the winner today. A clear winner indeed. He's crossed the line. Skibby gets second place. He'll be fuming. Girotto is third. And in fourth place, the Spaniard, Leonez de Borussia. And as they come into the finish, this is the race today for fifth place. And the man who started the breakaway, leading out Flavio Vanzella for the line. And Vanzella may well take it away from the little Frenchman, Le Danois. But it's a fifth place, nevertheless. Le Danois has ridden well today to start that breakaway. Couldn't quite master the move that came on the last climb of the Wal d'Esch. And now Vanzella is going to take fifth place, sixth place to Le Danois. And this is the arrival of Alex Zuller. He gets seventh place today. He chased such a long way, but it was all too much in the end. Just look at his face. And behind Zuller comes Olaf Ludwig, Frans Maassen, and the last of these three, you can probably hear the cheer. Well, it's for Jens Heppner, because you know he's stolen some time on the field, and that might move him up tonight. Now the arrival of the big sprint, some nearly 4 minutes has gone by, but the battle here will be for the green jersey and the points that can be scored for these low positions, because the situation is still close between the green jersey of Laurent Jalabert, the black jersey hitting the front now of Johan Museo, and Laurent Jalabert's got his wheel. These two are turning out to be the principal sprinters of this year's Tour de France. And look at this now, Museo and Jalabert is going to be faster today. Jalabert is coming right up on his shoulder, and hats off to the Frenchman. Laurent Jalabert takes it clear. Museo sits up out of that one now, as it was Adrie van der Poel who got between them both there, but Laurent Jalabert gets 11th place, and I think that will mean he will keep his green jersey tonight.
So a fine, well-taken victory today by Jan Nijmans of Belgium, just taking 3 seconds in the last kilometre out of Jesper Skibby and the rest of that breakaway. So I'm not surprised he was happy on the podium tonight at 34 years of age and the winner of the stage of the Tour de France. Pascal Lino, who keeps his yellow jersey now, he's brought it to the time trial of this year's race. He heads now Jens Heppner of Germany. Jesper Skibby is up into third place. Steve Bauer has dropped back to fourth, but retains that same time gap of 3 minutes and 11 seconds. Well, nobody voted in our competition for the man who won today, and I'm not really surprised at that, but 30 of you did name Jesper Skibby as the likely winner. So, who better to ask than Jesper Skibby to name the winner?
Sorry, Luke Ricketts from Huddersfield. I did not win, but you get the yellow jersey anyway. Thank you.
Well done, Luke, and I'm afraid I can't even show you the winner's jersey tonight, because in fact when we asked Pascal Lino to sign it, he put it on, he was so cold, and he rode off in it. But don't worry, we'll get it back by the morning. Tomorrow we're in Luxembourg, the first big time trial of this year's Tour de France, and I can assure you there'll be more changes in the overall classification as well. A great win today for Jan Nijmans at 34 years of age, his first victory in the Tour de France. I'm not surprised he was happy. This has been a marvellous opening week to the Tour de France, and as we say goodbye tonight, here's a few sights and sounds. Goodbye.